People are interested in Johnny Jett because he is skilled and charming, and he turns old wood into works of art. But behind that friendly smile is a story of hardship, sacrifice, and survival. From his childhood in a small Kentucky town to his time in Vietnam, Johnny's life has not been easy. And just when it looked like he was finally at peace doing what he loved, fans went crazy over a shocking story that he had died. Who was the man who made up the story? What in the world happened to Johnny Jett? William Eugene Billy Jett, Johnny's older brother, and I grew up in a close-knit Methodist family where religion and family came first. In rural Kentucky, my childhood was easy but full of exciting things to do. Johnny liked to explore, and he still remembers a story from 4th grade. His friends, and he would sneak off to the nearby creek to fish or swim during break. Fast, the teacher realized what was going on, and those fun adventures led to a few lessons along the way. He went to school close to home in Goddard and Flemingsburg. His brother Billy was the first person in the family to join the U.S. Army. He was sent to Vietnam. After seeing personally how terrible war is, Billy told their dad that Johnny shouldn't join the military and should instead go to college. That's why Johnny went to Morehead State University after high school. It did not go well, though. Later, he stated that he didn't understand what the teachers were saying. He failed almost all of his classes except for arts and literature. One win told him something about himself. He liked to think of new things. Once he realized this, he changed his plans and started taking drawing classes at Maysville Community College. He got his first job at the Cincinnati Milling Company in Ohio after finishing the school. His draftsman skills got better over the course of a year as he worked on technical drawings and board sketches. His plans changed a lot, though, when he was called up into the Army in 1969. Johnny's basic training was over after 6 weeks at Fort Dix in New Jersey. But he wasn't sent right into battle. Instead, he was sent to a tech unit. He was using the same skills he had learned in school back at the drawing board. He wasn't sent to Vietnam until 1971, 2 years after that. He never had to fire a gun, but he was often shot at as he moved from place to place. The things that happened left their mark. While he was abroad, Johnny went through a rough patch. In Vietnam, drugs like heroin and weed were used for fun, simple to get and tough to say no to. Many soldiers, like Johnny, used them as a way to deal with being bored and the heavy weight of fear and sadness. His father hired him at the family's water company when he got back home. He had helped his dad as a child, so it was familiar work and a chance to start over. Back in Kentucky, Johnny started to get better because he wasn't as close to drugs. He said that his faith helped him a lot during that time. He thought that even though God didn't make him an addict, he could use his battle to make something good happen. Johnny started telling his story in public, giving talks at rehab centers, and helping other people fight their own addictions over time. In the meantime, Billy had already started working as a carpenter, taking apart and putting back together old log houses. Johnny was moved to try making one for himself after seeing his brother do it. Eventually, he found an old house that he wanted to call his own. However, a brother and sister were still renting it and were living there. What happened was that the sister died and the brother moved into a nursing home. John Doe got an offer from the property owner. If he was ready to take the house apart and build it somewhere else, he could have it. Johnny and Billy worked together to complete the task. Carefully taking apart the old house, they moved each log back to their family farm by hand. After that, they worked together to rebuild it from the ground up. Both brothers liked old houses and barns with rough edges. It was more than just a hobby. Something really connected them. But bad luck struck in 1995 when Billy died before he could finish his last project, a house he had been working on with care, pride, and patience. Johnny chose to finish what Billy started to honor his brother's memory. He got his best friend Sherman Thompson, who is also a skilled woodworker, to help him. With each other's help, they finished the home, and something bigger started to take shape. Johnny really liked his job, so he told his dad he was leaving to start a house business. There was no better time than now. There was a growing need for old log buildings, and Johnny saw a chance to make their shared hobby into a real business. After that, Johnny and Sherman hit the road to look for famous 100-year-old cabins in rural Kentucky. They would carefully take apart each one as they were bought and stack the old logs nicely in what they called their boneyard. It began as a respect to Billy and slowly turned into a successful business. Soon, both of their friends were known for being dependable sources of old, real wood. Also, they didn't just sell stuff. For people who wanted to own a piece of pioneer history, they rebuilt those huts after restoring them. Fate intervened in 1996. A man named Mark Bow came up to Johnny while he was painting on his back porch. Mark came from West Virginia to meet his girlfriend at Morehead State University. He was looking for old cabins along the way. People in the area had told him about Johnny and said that if he wanted pioneer-era logs, he should talk to him. It's now part of local folklore that they met for the first time. Mark walked up and said he was thinking about starting his own log house business. Within a second, Johnny responded that he was considering leaving the situation. They got along right away, even after what they said. Johnny and Sherman knew their way around the area well and helped Mark find a huge number of cabins. By the end of the summer, they had found about 100. Sherman asked Mark if he'd be interested in hiring them full-time after Mark moved some of those structures to his own graveyard in West Virginia. Mark was so pleased. Mark agreed, and Johnny and Sherman joined Mark's new business, Antique Cabins and Barns, in 1998. Johnny helped start the team because he knew how to run machines and take apart and put back together houses from scratch. His hard work and skill helped the business grow across the area, paving the way for something even bigger to happen years later. Rick Kaplan, a manager at Silent Crow Productions in New York, was the one who made that happen. Rick was skiing with his wife when he passed through the area and saw the beautiful old houses stacked in the boneyard. He stopped to talk with Johnny and Sherman because he was interested, and soon after, he met Mark. Rick came up with a unique idea that would change everything: a documentary about their business. The documentary they made in 2005 was shown at a number of film events. They were encouraged by the reaction to make a pilot episode, which they then pitched to several TV networks. However, luck wasn't on their side. Back then, TV was ruled by shows like American Chopper, which had a lot of intense fights and tense scenes. That wasn't how the quiet work and teamwork behind these rooms looked, so the pilot never took off, at least not yet. After a few years, the team was offered the chance to be on a reality show, but they quickly turned it down. The show's makers wanted drama, fights, tension, and the fake chaos that was popular on reality TV at the time. But Mark Bow wasn't fascinated. There was a lot of trust and friendship between his team members because they had worked together for years. He said he wasn't going to start yelling at his friends just to make a funny show. After that, something changed. The DIY network came to them with a very different idea. They didn't want fake fights or plots that were pressed on them. They wanted the real thing. They wanted to show the crew as they really were, working hard to save old barns and houses. The crew was filmed as they worked on their projects once shooting started, and Mark had a say in how their story was told. He met with producers on a daily basis and helped plan the structure of each episode. Eventually, he became one of the producers of the show. He wanted every shot to show how skilled they were and how proud they were of their work. The reaction to the show was huge when it aired. People liked it a lot. It quickly grew into something much bigger from a small project. The production team was shocked by the numbers, so they ordered 13 more episodes right away. As a result, Barnwood Builders was born. Johnny had officially joined the show by 2013, making him a part of what would become one of the most beloved TV groups. Mark, Johnny Sherman Thompson, Graham Ferguson, Tim Rose, Max Hammer, and later Alex Webb were shown on the show as they fixed up and moved old barns and wood cabins all over the United States. But Barnwood Builders was more than just building things. History had to be kept alive. A lot of people who watched the show felt very emotional. The pioneering spirit of the early United States. They were more than just houses. They were historical stories that came to life. They were treated with the same respect that scientists would show old things. There was a story behind each project. The group also made sure to learn about the history of every place they worked on. They didn't just rebuild old buildings this time. They revived them. They met blacksmiths, woodworkers, and other craftsmen along the way, and sometimes they even got to experience live history through reenactors. Every experience made them value the heritage they were keeping alive even more. Why did the show stand out? Because it cared about history. It wasn't just a show about remodeling houses. It had elements of both fiction and factual, and it was all based on skill. Each log that was moved, each cabin that was fixed up, and each detail that was kept from falling apart over time showed how much care went into the project. The crew did more than just reuse old wood when Mark Bowes was in charge. They kept the real thing. If a log couldn't be used again in one house, it was in another one where it was put to good use. It was a way to respect the pioneers who built these structures by hand before there were power tools or other modern machines. Now, the first episode of Barnwood Builders started with a story that went all the way back to the founding of the United States. Johnny and his team were told to get logs out of a huge barn in Depot, Indiana. One was built in the 1830s by Josiah Lincoln, who was President Abraham Lincoln's uncle. Both in terms of its impact and its size, the project was huge. The barn was 26 feet wide, 34 feet long, and 15 feet high, and each of its wood pieces weighed up to 1,200 pounds. The crew treated each piece with care and respect for the skill of the time it was made in. Unlike modern buildings, this barn was put together with wooden pins instead of nails, which is a characteristic of buildings from that time. This time, there was a catch. They were supposed to use heavy equipment to tear off the roof. The owner requested that the siding, roof, and beams be kept in good shape. He was going to use these things again to build a new barn. It took more work, but Johnny and his team knew that the past in those boards was worth it. After taking apart each beam and plank safely, the group took the parts all the way to the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia. A builder would use the old wood to build a new, modern home there, showing that the past could live on in a beautiful new way. This kind of work was hard, but the crew made it look easy. They worked together with ease because they trusted each other. Someone said that they didn't see themselves as bosses or co-workers. Instead, they saw themselves as a close-knit group that knew what to do and when to do it. That team's leader was Johnny Jett. Johnny's skill, wit, and kindness made every project special from the start. Along with his team, he went deep into rural America and worked on projects that turned old, falling apart barns and cabins into modern, livable works of art. He unleashed his true magic when he got inside a big machine. He moved those big tools with calm mastery and accuracy, like an artist. Even though Johnny was the oldest person on the team, he worked harder than everyone else. He moved quickly and with purpose, whether he was taking down ceilings or ripping off metal sheets. By destroying things on purpose and with respect for what came before, he showed that even destruction could be an art form. The team's boss, Mark Bowe, often said that Johnny was the best person he'd ever seen run a machine. He was a real artist who never lost his modesty. Johnny became a fan favorite because he was humble. Even online, like when his grandson helped answer fan questions during a Reddit Q&A, he was funny. People asked Johnny how he got so good at driving a forklift, and he just laughed and said that it was because he didn't want to get off of it. But he was funny because he loved his job, his neighborhood, and the beauty of the world. Many times, he talked about how the show took him to amazing places, with the Four Corners area being one of his faves. He was drawn to the vast desert scenery and their wide range of colors and shapes after coming from the lush greens of Appalachia. In a touching tribute to Johnny, the Barnwood Builder team wrote on social media that he was an artist, a man of faith, a master craftsman, and most of all, a faithful friend. They loved each other outside of work. Johnny often had cast members over to his house in Fleming County, Kentucky, where they would share stories and make memories. In the past, Mark Bowe said that Johnny's house and the neighborhood around it felt like a second home to him. This was because of the real friendships that formed their bond, both on and off camera. When they weren't shooting, the crew would sometimes work on personal restoration projects. Before the show started, Johnny had been restoring buildings from the pioneer era. One time, he found an old church that was falling apart from its own weight. He saw promise in its bones, so he saved the good wood that was left and started rebuilding it in Fleming County. When the other crew members saw what he was doing, they joined in to help take down the rest of the building. The producers saw how beautiful the moment was right away and chose to show it on the show, even though it wasn't planned for that season. Fans of Barnwood Builders were eager to visit the famous boneyard, where the workers stored and fixed up old logs as the show became more popular. Visitors had to look at it from behind a fence, though, because of safety rules. There were no tourists there. It was a real building yard. In part, the show's popularity came from how realistic it was. Real clients and real projects were shown in every episode. There were no staged builds or written dramas. Mark B was clear from the start that he was committed to being real. He turned down early offers from networks that wanted to add fake tension to the show because he didn't want to turn real friendships into TV fights. He wanted the craft, the teamwork, and the past to stay the main points. It was that choice that gave Barnwood Builders its soul. The show started on the DIY network, but in November 2022, Chip and Joanna Gaines changed the name of the station to Magnolia Network, marking the start of a new era. They picked Barnwood Builders to be part of their new lineup, which will bring the show new attention and a bigger audience. The risk paid off. Viewers jumped from 60 million homes around the world to almost 500 million homes around the world. Then, out of the blue, a story spread that showed how fragile success and the truth behind it can be. Barnwood Builders fans were shocked when word spread that Johnny Jett had died. It quickly spread, and to be honest, most people at first believed it. Since he had to carry heavy logs, take apart old barns, and rebuild ancient cabins as part of his job, it didn't seem impossible. The work is very hard on the body, even for the younger guys on the team. When Johnny was that age, it was simple for people to think the worst. People were worried about Johnny's health even before the fake came to light. Fans were very upset when they saw an internet death notice for someone named Johnny Jett. But when people looked more closely, they saw that it was a different man from Houston, Texas. The pain went away right away. The fake news probably didn't bother Johnny's wife Donna or his grandsons Jonathan and Nicholas, who were the children of his late son Johnny Eugene Jett and died in 2017. Johnny was shocked when he learned about the death fake. As usual for Johnny, he didn't seem to mind. Instead of getting mad, he thought about all the love and nice words that came after. That view on life says it all about him. He is a religious man who believes he should follow where his Savior goes. Everyone who watches Barnwood Builders knows that Johnny is always ready to work hard. No matter how hot or cold it is, he's always out there with a smile on his face and a steady hand. His cheerfulness and hard work have helped make the show so special. He's also lucky to have Mark Bowe as a friend and boss who really cares about his team. Mark even made it a point to make sure that the team members who have been with them from the start are taken care of. Those who are like Johnny will have a nice retirement. Aside from the show, Johnny is busy with his art, which is another thing he loves. He makes rustic, handmade items that show how much he values history and skill. His art sells quickly online, which shows how much his fans love it. Johnny has built a good, happy life for himself and Donna. He is now worth about $400,000. They don't talk much about their private lives. For Johnny, who is humble and grounded, that's not a surprise. He still shows up on Barnwood Builders often, and his job is still very important. Old ideas about Appalachian craftsmen have been pushed by Johnny, Mark, and the crew. They changed what it means to be a farmer by showing the world that it's all about working hard, being tough, and taking pride in what you do. They look for old barns and houses that need to be fixed up all over the eastern United States as part of their job. Plus, Johnny is the one the team trusts to do the hard or dangerous jobs. Because he is so precise, patient, and respectful of the products, they can't be replaced. He feels like he's starting his own story every time he fixes a piece of history. People who work in repair know Johnny as the calm and skilled demolition man, the person who gets things done without a fuss. He's been an important part of Barnwood Builders from the start, and I can't picture the show without him. The day fans found out the death reports were false, the sigh of relief from everyone said it all. The directors, cast members, and Johnny himself don't seem to have any plans to slow down. He will keep doing what he loves as long as there are barns to take apart and houses to save. People who get to do what they love every day are truly lucky, and he often thinks about how lucky he is to be able to make a living doing something that makes him happy. Despite his later success and fame, Johnny still thinks of himself as a normal person. He thinks he's been seriously lucky. Additionally, he likes to say, God may really like